Just indicate when you want us to come in. Not verbally, but with a signal. And let what others say come. I mean, when you want to come in, not want us to come in. Good for nothing. They all figure a boy grown up mischief. Now we can hardly stand for that.
Peace, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Darker Than Blue. It is 5 o'clock on March 7th. I cannot believe it is already March, but if it's 5 o'clock on Friday, you know what time it is. I am Jackie Lukman, your host. Welcome to Darker Than Blue, the show where we talk about politics for the people who are, as you heard Curtis Mayfield just say, are darker than blue. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. Got a lot to talk about. Actually, I really just want to talk about one thing, to tell you the truth, and that's this latest, I don't know if it was actually a State of the Union address. I don't know if it was an official one, but you know, Trump's little speech on Tuesday night and the shenanigans, y'all, that happened at that speech. I want to talk about those shenanigans in particular. I recognize that Trump has said some truly insane things in that speech, but I'm not going to focus on what he said, because the response to the speech is what I'm always after. Because, and let me explain to you, dear listeners, why I do this way. Because I know some people are like, oh my God, all she does is criticize the Democrats. She never talks about how Trump is. And this is, I'm not making this up. People actually do tell me these things. They send me emails, they send me messages on Facebook, on social media. And that's cool. That's fine. If that's the way you hear it, okay. But that certainly is not what I am doing. Why I focus on the resistance to Trump the way I do is because I am a firm believer in the fact that as awful as Trump is, he would not be having as easy a time doing what he is doing if the infrastructure wasn't there for him to have a foundation to do these things and to go farther with them. I think that really is true, especially when we look at the ways Democrats have resisted to what Trump is doing. Now, we've talked in previous shows over the past, I don't know, month and a half maybe, about some of those policies that were implemented, put in place, passed, signed into law by Democrats. The immigration laws from the Clinton administration. We talked about the Defense Department issues. We've talked about the genocide that the Biden-Harris administration facilitated. We have talked about the ongoing support of apartheid that the U.S. government has always supported, whether it was in South Africa or whether it's in Gaza. You see, so there has been a long-standing support among Democrats for authoritarian, fascist, repressive policies, and people don't like it when I say that. But we keep talking about these things. I keep talking about these things because I know they are true. Sometimes the truth is extremely uncomfortable to hear, and that's okay, especially at a moment when everybody wants to just focus on what Trump is doing and saying. I think the problem with that, and this is the other reason why I focus on the resistance to Trump the way I do, or the lack thereof, is because if we only focus on what Trump is doing, and if we repeat this pattern every 4 years or every 8 years or every time a Republican comes back into office, and if the only time we are going to challenge the policies that come from this government is when a Republican is in office, we are missing half of the problem. And every time Democrats come into power after Republicans do, and Democrats say the whole time, the whole 4 years, Republicans are the devil, they hate you, they want to kill you all. And that's not untrue. Okay, that's not untrue, but the Democrats' response to all of that fear mongering never seems to reach the level of the threat that they say the other party poses, right? Because I really do believe that we are at the point in the history of this country and in the history of people's resistance and in the history of political resistance in this country. And honestly, all resistance to everything is political, because guess what? Everything is political. Every single thing is political. The reason you cannot have eggs for breakfast every day is because they are incredibly expensive now, and that's political. All right. So after Trump leaves this administration, whether, and I do believe he's probably going to be a one-term, it's going to be another one-term presidency for Trump. I could be wrong. And like I always say, I am happy to admit when I am wrong. But I mean, I do think he's going to be a one-term, this is going to be another one-term presidency for him. And he is going to wreak, as you can see, all kinds of havoc. But I am really disappointed is not a sufficient enough word, but I am noticing how the resistance from the Democrats does not rise to the level of the threat that they say Trump poses to democracy itself. And I think a really interesting example of this is the response to Trump's first, for this administration's State of the Union address, I suppose. And what happened this past Tuesday, I think it was that Representative Al Green, Democrat from Texas, was censured by the House of Representatives on Thursday. The vote to censure him was in response to Green's protest on Tuesday night during President Trump's address to a joint session of Congress. The House of Representatives voted, I wish I were making this up, 224 to 198 to censure Al Green because of his protest on the House floor on Tuesday night during Trump's speech. Green becomes the 28th lawmaker to be censured, 28th in the entire history of Congress, I believe. One of the most serious ways that Congress can reprimand a lawmaker. However, censured members don't lose any rights or privileges, so it's literally like a congressional slap on the wrist. But okay, they've only done it 28 times. The Texas Democrat, who is Green, he represents Texas, began shouting at Trump during Trump's speech, saying that Trump didn't have a mandate from the American people. House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican from Louisiana, warned Green to stop it and call for the House to come to order. Green kept on going, and he was ultimately escorted out. This is the thing that caused me, and I saw this, and I'm like, well, hey, at least somebody's doing something. Good grief. Even as in the moment, I was just kind of like, interesting timing, interesting, convenient expression of conscientiousness. The timing is interesting, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess at least somebody's doing something, and that's a good thing. And Representative Green was not lying. He was, he was telling the truth, I think. But the interesting thing that happened as Green was being escorted out of the chamber, I'm expecting a bunch of Democrats to get up and leave. That didn't happen. Did not happen. I think maybe 4 or 5, a small handful of Democrats left the chamber in protest, in solidarity with Representative Green, and the rest of them mugs stayed sitting in their seats, y'all. They stayed in that chamber listening to what the rest of what that man had to say. That was red flag number 1. I shouldn't say red flag because I don't want people to think that I'm supporting Trump here. Okay, that was a flag. That was warning flag number 1 for me. All right. Then the second warning flag came a couple of days later, Thursday, when the vote to censure Representative Green happens. And the red flag, or the warning flag here, is that 10 Democrats voted to censure Green with all of the Republicans. Okay. 10 Democrats joined all their Republican colleagues to censure Green. Green presented himself in the well of the chamber and was joined by other Democrats who, oh my gosh, y'all, this was warning flag number 3. And really, I got to say, Representative Green willingly presenting himself to the chamber to answer for the call, to answer for being censured. I wouldn't have done it. I would have had a press and I am well aware that I may have lost my job. They may have okay, but if we are in a moment where, as Democrats and many liberals are saying, a fascist is running the White House, and this fascist, Donald Trump, and his fascist friend Elon Musk, and all of their fascist minions are literally dismantling the democracy in this country at this moment. If that is what Democrats really believe these folks are doing, why are they willingly going along with anything these people are saying? This is a part of this current administration and the Democratic response to this administration that it's not that I'm confused about it. I just don't see how other people are not seeing, or as many people are not seeing, why the response is not rising to the level of the alleged threat. But let me go on with this story with Representative Green. So when Green presents himself to Congress, to the well of the House, to answer for the vote to censure him, other Democrats began to sing, "We shall overcome." Lord have mercy. And I'm trying to collect my thoughts and trying to be aware of FCC rules, realizing that well, I'm not doing an extra, I'm not doing, an additional, that there's no dark room tonight, folks, on Black Liberation Media. Apologies, but I got a long day of meetings tomorrow, and probably a protest for the women of Congo, because we actually get out in the streets and protest. You know what I'm saying? Along with the other organizing work we do, which is something that I understand Democrats are completely clueless about. But this, y'all, that they are in the chamber of the House singing "We Shall Overcome" in response to the Republicans and 10 of their Democratic colleagues voting to censure Representative Al Green. And listen, I am tired. I'm tired of Black folks singing "We shall overcome." We should stop. We are past the time of singing in protest. I am not opposed to protest songs. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. This is not a moment where "We shall overcome" is going to help us here. We are past the time of singing in protest, and we're seriously past singing "We shall overcome" if the man you're protesting is a fascist, as people claim. Do they think Trump cares? Do they think the Republicans care? Do they think their supporters care that they're in the House singing "We shall overcome" as a protest to them censuring Al Green? I am not sure. I mean, do they think that the other thing they did, which was some of the women in the Democratic Party deciding to dress up in pink in a so-called protest during the speech, all of the Democrats who didn't leave when Representative Al Green was dragged out of that chamber, a lot of the Democratic women, not all, but a lot, they had their own little silent protests that they had going on, where they all coordinated their clothes. They all coordinated their outfit colors, and they all wore pink. Is that their answer to resisting what they say is fascism and the literal dismantling of American democracy. And look, I know some people will hear me and say, oh my God, she's disrespecting our history. She doesn't like "We Shall Overcome." No, I have no problem with that song. And again, I have no problem with protest songs. I really just wonder why Democrat politicians are acting as if singing a song and coordinating colored outfits in protest is all they can do right now. There's no this thing that they did in response to this State of the Union address. It is no different with the color coordination. It's no different from Democrats putting on kente cloth stoles and kneeling like extras in Black Panther 3 in response to racist police terrorism and the uprising against it in 2020. You remember that ridiculous moment, dear listeners? This whole pink protest in the House during Trump's a State of the Union address, it was the kente cloth kneeling moment, but in Barbie colors. That's all it was. So, and I'm not the only one who saw that, the little pink protest, and thought, what in the world? Because an author by the name of Vanessa Friedman wrote this essay in the New York Times called "Democrats Appear in Pink to Protest." And then she asked the question, but is this really a Barbie moment? And I read that and I'm like, oh, did the Democrats really just coordinate their clothes color as a protest because of the popularity of the Barbie movie? What? Anyway, if that's not even really why they did it, anyway, Friedman says in this article, forget white suffragists' pantsuits, the political uniform of the female Trump opposition during the president's first term. On Tuesday night, during Trump's address to a joint session of Congress, she says about 36 members of the Democratic Women's Caucus wore bright hues of pink. Amid the sea of dark suits in the House chamber, all that pink was impossible to miss. It was also impossible not to wonder if the members of Congress were falling back on an old performance strategy rather than grappling with their bigger problems. I didn't say it. This Friedman author said it in her essay in the New York Times. She goes on to say there were congressmen in hot pink, shell pink, baby pink, in pink jackets and pink skirts. There were even some congressmen in pink ties. Nancy Pelosi wore a bright pink pantsuit. I mean, because she's got that kente cloth stole in her closet. Of course, she had a pink pantsuit. Representative Jill Tokuda of Hawaii wore a bubblegum pink blazer with "We the People" scrawled in black on her lapels. Representative Teresa Leger Fernandez of New Mexico, chair of the caucus, wore a raspberry jacket and cotton candy colored palazzo pants. We decided to use a strong color because what's happening now is more extreme than ever, said Ms. Fernandez, referring to Mr. Trump's policies and executive orders on women's health care and Ukraine, among other things. Oh, now what? Ukraine? Oh, we don't have time to get, but we talked about that, remember? Okay, let me stay on track. Pink is, she said, the color of women's power and persistence and of resistance, end quote. That's what Representative Fernandez said, not me. So this movement, and this is me now talking. So this movement is the more so this moment rather is the more extreme than ever. If that's true, why is the Democrats' response to the most extreme moment they've seen? Why is their response to that color coordination of their clothes? Elsa Schiaparelli, also in this article, also called the color shocking and Barbie. and that Barbie made pink a feminist flag. That is what somebody else said about their color coordination on pink hues. She said, it speaks of the female body and flesh in an almost visceral way. Hold up. How come the only female bodies y'all are representing are the pink ones? Let me go on before I say something that's going to get me in trouble with the authorities. It also recalls 2017 and Mr. Trump's first term, when thousands of women around the country knitted pink hats. I can't say that word in between, but you know what it is. Starts with a P, ends with a Y, to wear at a protest march the day after his swearing in. Though the hats have not reappeared, by adopting the color and extending it to their entire outfit, the Congresswomen are attempting to reclaim it as a sign of opposition. But it was the pink that seemed to symbolize the complications. Both good, it was a start at a united response. This is what the author Friedman says. And bad, it risked coming across as superficial and kind of flimsy. Again, that was the author Friedman, not me, of linking a protest to a color. Excuse me. Still, the lawmakers believed it was worth wearing something that would stand out. Mr. Trump may have the mic, Ms. Fernandez said, quote, but with color right in front of him, we could register our protest, end quote, or at least try to. The protest was, of course, not merely a matter of color. Democrats brought guests to the address, focusing on people who had been harmed by Mr. Trump's policies, and carried paddles. This is the guests, and some of the representatives carried paddles that read Musk steals, lies, and save Medicaid. This is what most Democrats call a protest of someone they say is doing the most extreme, dangerous, fascist things they've ever seen. And that, I say, is pathetic, insufficient, insulting to the people they are supposed to represent, and cowardly. These politicians have voted for repression of people out in the streets protesting Democrat authoritarianism against pro-Palestine, anti-genocide, anti-imperialist, Stop Cop City protesters all across this country for the past 4 years. People who actually got out in the streets and raised their voices and put their bodies on the line for the rights of all people and an end to genocide, an end to imperialist warmongering, and against expanding an already massive and deadly police state. Those people were punished brutally by the people, very same people, who couldn't think of a more effective way to protest a person they say is a fascist other than to wear pink. It's wild to me that the only Democrat to actually open his mouth against the lies Trump told Tuesday night was Representative Al Green. None of those people in pink stood up and walked out when he was escorted out, which is what they should have done. Every single Democrat, every single one of them should have, and a few Republicans who claim they're opposed to what they're doing, but they're too focused on respecting rules than actually doing anything to oppose what they have characterized as evil, and I'll say it again, fascist. And the censuring of the lawmakers thing, that was once a pretty rare thing, but the number of censured lawmakers has grown in recent years. Since 2021, 5 members have been censured, a majority of which were Democrats. On Wednesday night, Green told reporters in the Capitol he, quote, would do it again. But then, after shaking hands with Representative Dan Newhouse, the Republican representing Washington, who introduced the resolution to censure Green. Yes, Green represents himself to the House to answer to the resolution to be censured, and he shakes the hand of the man who introduced the resolution to censure him. Green said his actions weren't done, quote, out of a burst of emotion, end quote. He said the president indicated that he had a mandate. I said to the president, you do not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. I have constituents who need Medicaid. They will suffer and some will die if they don't get Medicaid. He said, I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality, end quote. Green went on further to say, excuse me, quote, I think that on some questions of conscience, you have to be willing to suffer the consequences, and I have said I will, end quote. This is great and all that, but why are Democrats shaking hands with the person who brought the resolution to punish him for speaking out? Why? What is wrong with people that we are still trying to be polite to people that we say are fascists? What is wrong with Democrats who are being polite to people who they say are fascists? And this censure is the latest example of Democrats grappling internally with a unified strategy in pushing back against the Trump administration. Now, this is from the New York Times. I'm not making this stuff up. Party leaders asked their members ahead of the address to maintain a dignified and somber presence in the chamber during Trump's speech. Like I said, they were more focused on following rules than on protecting the people and standing up to the fascists. Some members, spurred by supporters who are clamoring for more actions from the minority party, are showing they think bold action that gets lots of social media attention is a better approach. That's where the pink and the little signs come in. That's what they think that is. Democrats are facing pressure to fight Trump's agenda, but in the majority, they're saying they have limited power. And okay, I get legally, legislatively, I won't say legally, legislatively, that might be true. But not only did Green get removed early, other Democrats booed, held up signs, blasting Trump and his advisor, but they also argue that becoming the story detracts from keeping the focus on GOP policy and the public affected. So you don't want to do anything. You don't want to speak out against what Trump is doing. You don't want to actually stand in solidarity with the one person who did speak out against what Trump is doing, because you don't want to put the focus on you instead of keeping the focus on GOP policy. But even Democrats are not talking about GOP policy. Let me go on. In a letter sent Monday to House Democrats, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, emphasized that focus. He said it is important to have a strong, determined, and dignified Democratic presence in the chamber. The House as an institution belongs to the American people, and as their representatives, we will not be run off the block or Why is this man who is on the payroll of AIPAC? Why is he trying to sound like he's still from the hood? We're not going to get run off the block. Man, shut up. Anyway, Representative Tom Suozzi, also Democrat of New York, who voted for the censure resolution, one of the Democrats who voted for the censure, and Hakeem Jeffries voted to censure Green too, posted on X that Democrats need a better strategy. So I am not the only one, dear listeners, sitting here questioning the Democrats on their lack of resistance to everything Trump is doing. Now, even the scribes of the empire at the New York Times are coming out and saying, what is going on? Why are they? Is this all they're going to do? What is happening? They're doing it very carefully. They're doing it in a very limited way, but it's kind of surprising that they are doing it. Both parties, according to this article, must hold themselves to the same standards we expect from the other side. This is more from Hakeem Jeffries. I'm angry about plenty that the president is doing and what he said the other night, but the punch counterpunch is not working. And Hakeem Jeffries, the punch counterpunch strategy isn't working because Democrats are not actually counterpunching. All the women wearing Barbie pink and a few people walking out, that's not a counterpunch. What would have been a counterpunch is if every single Democrat not only walked out, but if every Democrat at the first lie that man said, if every Democrat got up and shouted him down so he couldn't keep lying. And you know what? Yes, bring security in to escort all of us out. Call the National Guard. Call them. Make it. I have been saying over the past few weeks, since all of this is going on, that yes, this is bad, but I have been asking a question that I am still surprised that other people are not asking. Well, people are starting to ask, why are people just going along with what these people are telling folks to do when every agency has its own legal staff and they know that most of these things are illegal and will be overturned in court? Yes, Trump and his minions will ignore the rulings and continue to keep doing them. But the US government has attorneys, and these attorneys, they have not all been fired by Trump, not all of them. And even if they were, why aren't they coming out and talking to the American people about the illegality of what is doing? How can we have not been bombarded with press conferences from all of these fired agency heads explaining to people, demanding time on all of these corporate media outlets that are supposed to be quote unquote liberal leaning? Or the ones that call themselves progressive? Where are they in talking to the American people and explain? Why aren't the politicians who have been booted out of their jobs by Trump illegally?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
We missed the bottom of the hour break.
Okay.
It was my fault. So whenever you're ready to take a break.
So, you know, there is no resistance. There is no organized, real resistance that we are seeing from the Democrat Party. And I hope that you are seeing this now, because I'm not just sitting here hating y'all. We really do have a problem with both parties, two wings of a completely evil and corrupt bird. But we've got to take a break right now. It is a little bit past 30 minutes past the hour. It is time for our favorite station break. Let's go.
Sorry about that. I was so enthralled by what you were saying and agreeing with everything. These people, they acting like they're, you know what I mean? This is what we do with our girlfriends. We go wear matching outfits, but we do that when we're 10.
Right.
We do that when we're 10.
We do that with our sissy and our brother.
Dominion trip. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what you do. I'm like, y'all, you should have been protecting the man by walking out with him.
Exactly.
That is what allyship looks like. I could not believe not a one of them got up and got out that place.
Appalled.
301-495.
And then you absolutely right. Singing, what you singing for? You ain't do nothing. Oh, 10 seconds. Let me stop so you can get back to it.
No worries. No worries.
One broadcast at a time.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I am. It is just a weird time. I don't understand. And I guess for people who are really just dyed in the wool blue dog Democrats will never support anything other than the Democratic Party, regardless of what they do or do not do. I mean, there's not a lot that I can say to people whose politics are there, right? There's not a lot that I can say to convince people who believe that the only way we are all going to be saved is if we can somehow put our heads down and just hopefully survive this next 4 years, and then we'll go back to a return to normalcy. please remember that phrase, return to normalcy, because I guarantee you that right before, when the campaigns for the 2028 elections begin, you're going to hear a lot of that from the Democrats. But I need you to also to remember that the very same people who are going to beat you over the head with you have to vote for us for a return to normalcy are the same people who did nothing to defend the democracy that they claim is being dismantled by the person they say is a fascist. And the best indication of that is the fact that the one person who did stand up for his constituents in that moment, it is very important. Didn't we just talk last week about how the South Korean people responded to the administrative coup, not only with a high level of organization, but with an amazing amount of swiftness? It wasn't, oh, there's an administrative coup going on. Oh, let me just see what other people are doing. Let's coordinate our colors. Let's go make sure we have the right outfit. No, everyone responded to that moment. And the response was commensurate with the threat. So not just one person showed up at the National Assembly to oppose the attempted coup. The first night, 16,000 people showed up. So why was Representative Al Green the only Democrat voice of dissent to Donald Trump and all of his lies and his hate and his fascism? And that's the other thing that kind of bothers me, dear listeners. Trump, aside from his outright lies, things that nobody's turning mice transgender. That's not even a thing. It's not even a thing. It is a study on something else, and transgender has nothing to do with it. Transgender is not even in the title of, you're just going to have to look it up. I'm just not going to tell you, because you're going to have to start doing your own homework. You have to. Because that is how, once you find out you've been lied to real good one time and you found out the truth, that is something that you are going to want to do all of the time. So please go look up what that study or that research is really about. It has nothing to do with transgender anything. So Representative Green is escorted out of the chamber by himself. No solidarity. And I'm going to talk about Green and his protest in a minute. But the fact that his Democrat colleagues, 10 of his Democrat colleagues, turned on him. And really, those 10 Democrats who voted to censure Representative Green, they turned on you. They turned on their constituents. They turned on Representative Green's constituents. But then every other Democrat who allowed that man to be removed from the chamber by him. See, this is why we cannot continue to give legitimacy to liberal ideas about what resistance is. We need to stop listening to these people talking about this is resistance, them color coordinating their outfits and singing "We Shall Overcome." There was a time when 10,000 Black folks marching arm in arm across the Edmund Pettus Bridge singing "We Shall Overcome," struck fear into the hearts of the white people who just wanted us to go away, the southern racists who wanted us to stay in our place. There was a time when, yes, that was a tactic that was powerful and useful, and it was a part of the tip of the spear, and it also buoyed our spirits. Because that kind of protest, of resistance to oppression, literally putting your body on the line to win the liberation of your people, that took a kind of spiritual uplift that song gave us. So please don't think I have a problem with the song. I have a problem with when Democrats, when liberals take things that radicals have done to get us to this point, they take it and they water it down to nothing for nobody's benefit. So yes, I'm a little bit offended that Democrats who aren't doing anything else are singing "We Shall Overcome" in the okay, let me stop before I say a word that I shouldn't. So so further down in this article, a representative Suozi had some other things to say about what he thinks should be done. He is seen as some in his party as somebody who can win in tight districts that are currently controlled by Republicans because he won a special election to replace former Representative George Santos after the Republican was expelled from the House and held the seat in the general election with a message that mixed support for abortion rights with an emphasis on more border security and support for Israel. More border security, we talked about that a few weeks ago, how this whole focus on controlling the border is the Democrat shift to the right to appease so-called moderate Republicans so that the Democrats hope the moderate Republicans would vote for them instead of the far right Republicans. That's literally what that was. And that comes from the Democratic Leadership Council's third way strategy that they cooked up that preceded the election of Bill Clinton. So and this support for Israel, come on now. We've talked about what Zionism really is. We've talked about the white supremacist settler colonial apartheid fascism that they have set up in Palestine. What they're doing in Gaza is genocide. So here's a clue as to why the Democrats aren't counterpunching. They believe in many of the things the Republicans believe in. Another representative who has been in Congress for nearly a decade said that he had never seen the speaker direct the sergeant at arms to remove a member from the premises. He said, this is not personal to Mr. Green. And this is a representative. His name is Newhouse. He said, this is not personal to Mr. Green, who is a very amiable fellow, but we must, as members of this institution, have leave our rhetoric, calm our energy, leave our rhetoric, make sure our emotions do not take over and conduct ourselves in a way that all of us, not just here in this room, but across the country can be proud. Man, shut up. And I don't care about your rhetoric and your decorum. Nobody, here's the thing. It's not just that I do not care, dear listeners. Nobody cares about y'all being polite to each other because you're not being polite to us. I don't understand how politicians are still doing this. We have to have decorum in this storied and hallowed chair. There is nothing special about that building and what goes on in it, especially since it was built by our ancestors who were forced to do it. And our ancestors were not given rights. The people who built the buildings weren't given rights by the people who worked in the buildings. And the people who worked in the buildings kept making arguments for not giving the people who built the building. Come on now. Can we please stop venerating these institutions that have oppressed people and that continues to facilitate the oppression and degradation of people by the very folks who are sitting here trying to lecture us about decorum and calm. They're calmly stealing our money. They're calmly denying us health care. They're calmly about to finally, after Democrats and Republicans have threatened for decades to cut Social Security and Medicare. You heard what I said. Democrats have threatened to cut Medicare and Social Security many times, including Biden and Obama. Yes, they have. Please look it up. So the Republicans may finally do it this time. And I'm not sure if they'll actually get away with it. I am sure a lawsuit will be filed, has already been filed, and I'm sure a judge is probably going to rule against them, but that's not going to matter to these people because, like I said, Trump has not fired everybody in management and leadership from these agencies. So people are just going along, that they're telling them to do these things. Elon Musk does not have the authority to fire people. A judge just ruled last week that OPM doesn't have the authority to fire people, that they were ordered to rehire a bunch of people in an agency that they just fired. So none of this is legal. Told you that weeks ago. People didn't believe me. Judges are now ruling that, yes, a lot of this is illegal. These people don't have the authority to fire anybody in the federal government. Are these people going to get their jobs back from these folks? Are you crazy? No, I do not believe a lot of these people are going to get their jobs back, because that's just how intransigent Trump and his minions are. But again, this should not be a surprise to anyone. What you're watching is white supremacist settler colonial ideology in 2025. What you're watching is how the United States was established. What you're watching is how England was established. What you are watching is how every pan-European settler colonial empire was established. And they know this. They understand that what they are doing is technically illegal, but they also understand that the people who wrote the laws, the Constitution, they also understand that those people did not write that document to control the behavior of the people in power. That document exists to control you and me. The Constitution, it does not control these people who are in power, because look at what who among them, other than the unions and the NGOs and the private companies or the organizations representing some of the employees and the people, who among the politicians are doing much of anything to stop any? Come on now. So let me finish up this article with this man Newhouse calling Representative Green amiable. And then there's Representative Jim McGovern, the Democrat from Massachusetts, who called criticism of Green selective outrage and pointed to occasions when Republican members of the House heckled former President Joe Biden. He said, "I remember sitting here and there was an entire heckling session on the Republican side, and we didn't call for all of those members to be removed," McGovern said. "Where were my Republican friends?" Well, that's the problem. You keep thinking they're your friend. Well, no, the problem is we don't understand that they are friends. That's the problem. That's what it is. That's what it is. They are friends, the Republicans and the Democrats. They are friends with each other. So McGovern goes on to say, nobody apologized for interrupting Joe Biden time and time again. You talk about lack of decorum, go back and look at the tapes, and there was silence on the Republican side. He's right. He's absolutely right. But he didn't get up and say anything in defense of or in solidarity with Green either. Then you have Representative Doug LaMalfa, Republican from California, who obviously supported the censure and called it a regrettable situation, not one we enjoy at all. He said, "I've been disappointed over the years at outbursts that come from this chamber at whoever the president is. I know people on my side that have done it," he said. Then he said, "Mr. Green, I consider him a friend, at least an acquaintance. We don't hang out a lot or on the same committees, but we chat together in the hallways and stuff. I like him," he said. "I've had presidents I've strongly disagreed with the rhetoric or their policies, and I think they've been very harmful in the country, but you don't act that way. You don't completely disrupt the operations of this chamber in the State of the Union address last night for your own theater." First of all, this is not the kind of thing you would say about somebody you claim is your friend. If somebody who I say is my friend says this about me, I'm showing up at that. They're not my friend. Do you understand? These people show exactly how they feel about Democrats every chance they get. They're like, "Yeah, I know we can work together, but we're gonna throw y'all under the bus every time, every chance we get." And what this means that one of two things has to be true. Either Democrats really are cowards. They are cowards, and they are letting themselves be bullied mercilessly by Republicans. And you know that's not true. Or they really are in cahoots with these people, and all of this is theater. All of it is theater. Yes, the Republicans heckle the Democrat presidents. The Democrats, well, usually they don't heckle the Republican presidents, and that's the problem. That's why this is such a big deal, because normally when the Republicans are in power and Republicans do awful things, Democrats usually don't say anything. This is one of those rare times when actually did. So this is why I say Republicans and Democrats are friends, because you can't tell me that Democrats that they can't be upset that Republicans treat them this way and talk about them this way in public all of the time whenever Republicans are in power. Remember Obama with his administration? What was the first thing the Republicans? Obama hadn't even done anything yet. He hadn't even done anything yet. What did Mitch McConnell and the Republicans do? They held a press conference on the first day of Obama's administration and said, we don't care what he does. We're going to make sure he fails. We're going to make sure he will be a one-term president. We don't care what he does. What do the Democrats do when Trump wins again? They attend the inauguration. And they talk about, well, you know, we have to work together. Are you serious? These are not people who are in opposition to the Republicans. These are people who are in collusion with the Republicans. This is an act. It's a dance they do. They coordinate the steps every 4 years. They coordinate who leads every 4 years. So let's not forget, as we wrap up, through all the protests the past 4 years, over all the ways the Democrats have lied to us, abandoned the people, Democrats didn't show us any respect either. So I don't want to hear anything from these people, Republican or Democrat, about decorum and calm and respect. None of this political theater was done at any time during the last 15 months that Biden and Harris not only allowed the brutalization of anti-genocide student protests on college campuses, but they lied about those protesters. That was the thing. Now, I expected the repression, but the way Biden and Harris and the Democrats lied about those students, claiming that they were violent, they were assaulting Jewish students, that they were anti-Semitic. They said Jewish students felt threatened by the anti-genocide protesters, when it was the Zionists and a lot of outside agitators, by the way, grown adults who weren't even students at most of these colleges in most instances, who came to the campuses and assaulted and harassed the student protesters. Democrats did not stand up for those students, and Biden sounded just like Trump when he claimed the protests were violent and the students were destroying campus property. And did any Democrat, except for Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, did any of them say about the repression that the colleges did against their own students, violating their First Amendment rights? Nope. This is why the Democrat resistance it's not resistance. Even Representative Al Green's, even his. Because where was any of this opposition to a genocide supported by Biden and Harris? They didn't resist any of the repression that Biden and Harris carried out against the people because they supported it. So they can't really put up a real resistance to Trump now, because they don't really oppose what he's doing. They want to work with him so they can make their money too. Oh, don't believe me? Okay, there are Democrats on the Doge team in at least one state, Texas. Yes, there are. And they're hoping that what Musk is doing at the federal level, he won't do at the state level. You heard that right. They are already working with these people. And those who are they're just simply hoping they won't do worse. I mean, if you're going to work for them, get in there and make sure they can't do worse. That's all I'm going to say about it. They aren't talking about actually fighting for anything or anyone. And even worse, James Carville, that decrepit old Southern Democrat who might as well be a modern Dixiecrat and has the irritating, smug condescension of an old white guy attitude that those types have. He wrote in a recent essay in the New York Times on February 25th called "It's Time for a Daring Maneuver, Democrats." And the daring maneuver is, well, this is what he says. There will probably be more enormous tax cuts for the wealthy and Medicare cuts hitting a lot of other people. But there is nothing the American public despises more than disorder and a broken economy. And there's nothing Democrats can legitimately do to stop it, even if we wanted to, with no clear leader to voice our opposition and no control in any branch of government. It's time for Democrats to embark on the most daring political maneuver in the history of our party. What is it? Roll over and play dead, allow the Republicans to crumble beneath their own weight, and make the American people miss us. That's why Democrats are not actually fighting any of this, because their strategy is literally to make you suffer so that you are forced to vote for them again in 2028. Remember what W.E.B. Du Bois said. One evil bird, two wings. That's where we are. And I'm out of time. Thank you so much for listening to Darker Than Blue. This is Jackie Luqman. I will be back next week at 5 o'clock where we'll talk more about what's going on and what we can do about it. Until then, peace, if you are willing to fight for it.
Beautiful show. Thank you.
All right, y'all. I'm really not doing a dark room. I just want to thank you all for coming on. Appreciate you. I will see you all next week for another dark room. And I got a really, really busy weekend. So I'll see you all later. Thanks so much. Peace.